Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, and I am reporting live from my little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law. And Ruthie Landis has just said, how many Pulpwood Queens does it take to get Nancy J. Martin onto our Zoom call? Evidently, more than we've got here today. So we've got Nancy on audio. I'm holding up my phone, so she's listening to us. And so, hi, Nancy, welcome.
Hi, Kathy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. I'm sorry we're having the difficulty tonight with what we're doing here with our call today, but we are happy we at least have you on here for our Zoom meeting. I've got to figure out what's going on here too, because my channel just went away. Are you sharing that about the book now, pictures and everything?
I'm sharing a picture of Nancy since she is.
Okay, so we've got pictures of Nancy. We're using your post blogs to post about the book, LSD, Mace Chardonnay, San Francisco, 1967. So Nancy, tell us a little bit about yourself and the backstory as we look at these pictures of you that you've posted for all of us on our blog page. So go ahead.
Okay, well, I am a San Francisco native, and the book is the saga of it's my memoir, so it's the saga of my life, which I start the book in about 1966, and where I meet my my ex-husband, who is still my very good friend, by the way, and it changed my life forever. And the book recounts my life from then until now.
Wow. Wow. This is amazing. Well, I think Eileen just asked, where is Valley of the Moon?
So people often hear a lot about Napa, California.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm in Sonoma, which is the next valley. It's the other wine valley. And Sonoma County, there's Napa County and Sonoma County, and they're right next to each other. So I'm in Sonoma County, and the town of Sonoma is in the Valley of the Moon.
I did not know that. That is fascinating. Thank you for sharing that with us. Well, I love this photo of you on the horse. It's a wonderful, growing up in Kansas, horses was a big part of my growing up experience too. Not so much for riding, but because my grandfather broke quarter horses. Tell us about this love of horses.
Are you looking at the picture of the horse on the beach?
Yes, it's fabulous.
Oh, that is my gelding Milagro, who I pulled out of the birth canal myself. I bred his mom to my stallion, and I've always had horses. Kathy, I got my dad, who was also into horses, bought me my first horse when I was 9 or 10.
Wow.
And there's rarely been a time in my life, with only a brief exception, that I have not had at least one horse in my life.
Do you know I have a riding stables right across the road from where I live? I'm not kidding you. I just think it's so cool. I never wanted a horse growing up, but I kind of like to have one now. I love horses.
They are wonderful and therapeutic. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, yeah. And you also, besides being an author, you design jewelry at nancymartinjewelry.com.
Yes, I do. I'm a jeweler. So I show at two beautiful art galleries, the Arts Guild of Sonoma, which is in the town of Sonoma, and then I show at Healdsburg Center for the Arts, which is another very beautiful art gallery a little ways north in Sonoma County.
Wow. Well, both Mandy Haynes, my executive director, and I are artists. And I was a metal major when I first started out in an art in college, and then they dropped the program at my university. So I switched over to geology. So I've made jewelry off and on, and Mandy makes a lot of jewelry. So it's beautiful work. I love all the silver and.
Well, I have to tell you that I put up that website myself, and I rarely update it. So what you're looking at is jewelry that I made a couple of years ago, but I'm constantly making jewelry.
Wow, I'm looking at it, and your prices are incredible. So these are very nice. I love it. I love silver jewelry. And when I lived I used to live in San Diego. I went up tourmaline hunting. I went up to I brought back a lot of really pretty things. Still have all those things. So, but look at the horse. I love it. Wild horse pendant. These are gorgeous. And so many authors are all so multi-talented. Look at this. This is gorgeous.
Well, thank you, Kathy.
There's a wolf. Somebody told me that was my spirit animal years and years ago. And I love wolf. I love animals. I just love animals. So how wonderful. So you do individual shows and things like that too?
I do, yes.
Cool. Very cool. Well, now let's jump back to your book. What a story. Right before this, we read another book. All these books came in about a time period that I was always very curious about, the 60s and San Francisco and Haight-Ashbury. And I've known a lot of authors from Berkeley and all the things that were happening in the 60s. And here we have your memoir that tells your story.
Interestingly enough, although I had not known Eileen English previously, we published our books at exactly the same time.
I know.
And had our book launches very close together. And we haven't met in person, but I emailed her and said, hey, let's swap books. So we did. So I kind of feel like I know her.
Oh, you know what? I love when authors make connections to other authors because it's you get a fuller picture. And isn't it weird how sometimes I remember when the girl with the pearl earring came out about the Vermeer painting, there were 2 books and we had 2 books hit us about the same time about Coco Chanel. I feel like that's kind of kismet, karma. I don't know. I just think it's you were probably destined to meet.
Perhaps we were. She lives not that far from me, about an hour and a half away in Jenner on the coast. So maybe someday we will meet.
Well, if you meet, we'll get back together and try this Zoom thing again and see if we can get it all together. But I used to sweat this stuff. I mean, bullets, man. I didn't know enough. But I've done so many Zooms now. I think I've done over 200 videos this year via Zoom that are up on my Kathy L. Murphy channel. And just every once in a while, we have these weird, they're changing things up to keep, there's so many people that are learning how to hack into these things. And so they're changing them so much. I think some of the parameters they're putting up for keeping hackers out or keeping people out. So it'll all catch up. The technology will all catch up, but we're just thankful that you're here and we're thrilled about your posts and the pictures and everything you're reporting. And this is a great cover. Tell us about, did you take this photo?
No, but I envisioned this cover and I looked and looked and looked and looked, trying to find a picture of what we used to call a psychedelic Volkswagen bus, and I finally found it. And so my editor and I put it together, and I've loved the cover. It kind of stands out. And because I get letters from people all over the country who've read this memoir telling me that, that their fondest wish was to come to San Francisco. When they see the Volkswagen bus, it just brings it all back.
I'll tell you, in Jefferson, Texas, where I used to live, the general store has a Volkswagen bus painted exactly like one on your cover. I'll take a picture of it next time I'm over there and send it to you. But I got to tell you, have you ever heard of the red, white, and blue beach?
No, I have not.
It's north of San Francisco. And one summer, I took a 2-week backpacking camping trip up the California Pacific Coast 101 highway. And I was going to go up to Canada and back down in 2 weeks. It got cut short. I got as far as Crater Lake, but I camped at a beach north of I went to San Francisco and did the whole, the bridge, the park, all that. But I couldn't find a state park that had an opening. What people don't know that national parks and state parks in well-populated parts of the country book a year in advance. So here I am. All I've got is a backpack tent. I just want to throw it down so I can sleep. And I stopped at a state park, I think north of San Francisco, and they said, well, we don't have anything. I go, just want to put down my tent. They go, no, we can't do that. But we'll send you to the red, white, and blue beach. So I drove along with the directions. And I came to a guardhouse. And the guy said, can he had to check in all my recording devices and video equipment. And I go, what? So they took all the cameras and pulled in, and it was full of those vans. It was full of those vans. And the first thing that happened when I pulled in was a man walked across the road in a navy blue hoodie, and it was cold, drinking a cup of coffee, but he didn't have on any pants.
Yeah.
It was a nude beach. Oh my God. I was just like, and I thought it's freezing cold. And it was just filled with these people that have been there since the 60s. And
hoodie on, Kathy. He was warm. He had a hoodie on.
Well, I got a bumper sticker that said, I've been to the red, white, and blue beach. I just wondered since, if you'd ever heard of it, and it has.
I've never even heard of it.
We'll Google it because it's famous. It's kind of like Black's Beach down near San Diego, La Jolla, where I used to live. It's a nude. It's where people go to be at one with nature.
Should I share screen?
Oh, we share a screen. Listen, it was all old guys and young girls. Well, I could write a whole story. Maybe that'll be a new chapter in my new book. Anyway, did you have a bug or a van yourself?
Myself, my husband did.
Yeah.
My ex-husband did, but no, I did not. I had, at that time, I had a little sports car and a little MGA.
Oh, wow. Well, my first car that I owned was a Volkswagen Bug. I think it was a 64. And that is really the 60s and 70s is Volkswagen, man. We had them, they were everywhere. And it's still driving around my hometown. It's been through like 15 owners and 4 or 5 engines. So it's still driving around. But so tell us, how did this book actually get started for you, Nancy? What made you write? I mean, what compelled you to put this, story to words?
Well, throughout my life, everyone that knows me and has known me has begged me to write my story because it's so unusual.
It is, yeah.
I don't know too many people that have a story like mine. So after my most recent husband, my late husband, Joe Martin, passed away, you hear in writers' conferences about people doing automatic writing. And I tell you, Kathy, I just sat down at my computer and it was like someone turned the faucet on and it just started coming out and it would not stop for a year.
Wow. Well, good for you. Everybody has a story, but not everybody can get it down. So that's quite an accomplishment. And what did you learn from the experience? That's a loaded question, isn't it?
Gee, for me, that's a really complicated question. But I'll tell you, at one of my readings, a lady came up to me after the reading and asked me to sign the book. And she said, Oh, you've had such an exciting life, and I've had such a boring life. I wish that I'd had a life like yours. And I looked at her and I said, well, I have to tell you that I wish my life had been a little less exciting.
That's right. That's right. But unless we, if we don't write down our stories, it's a library lost to family and friends, and other people might not get it right. So congratulations that you got it right. It's a really a compelling read, and it's one that, I was born in 56, so I was still, a kid in the 60s. So it kind of, I was always fascinated by that era because so many things were happening, we had in my hometown all these garage bands. People all wanted to be like the Beatles and the Monkees, and of course I was a Beach Boys fan myself. I wasn't a Beatles fan until later in life, but I dreamed of coming to California. Now, you've always lived out there?
Yes, for the majority of my life.
Yes, yes. And you've been there in Sonoma for how long?
I've been here in Sonoma since 1976.
Oh my, wow. That was the year I was in my sophomore year of college. And that was really interesting. Your pictures in the back of your book fascinate me because you're quite beautiful. And I love the picture of you on a horse as a child and this wonderful 1965 San Rafael High School. Man, you look like a glamour queen, that updo. And remember when we took those graduation pictures where we wore the V-neck drape they put on you with your shoulders and, or they had marabou?
Right.
And I remember I wasn't going to wear those. I had a slinky mini dress that I wore for my 74 high school photo. And, but how, as you're looking back on this story and the fact that you've got it down, are you going to continue as a writer? That's really interesting to me. Or is that the story you just had to tell?
Oh, no, I've always been a writer. I just had one of my stories accepted into an anthology, not the pulpwood, that one too, actually.
Well, we can get you in
anthologies recently.
Yay.
And I won a contest last year with a cash prize, and I'm in a number of writing organizations. So yes, I'm writing all the time.
I adore and worship authors so much because when I was a kid, we didn't have bookstores. We just had, the Carnegie Library and the comic books at the drugstore. And so authors to me were like these mythological characters. They all lived in New York City and were so smart, went to Yale and Harvard. And then when I grew up, I found out, you mean you can make a living reading books? What? I worked on every side of the book selling table, from bookseller, book buyer, bookstore manager, bookstore owner, book publisher's representative. I'm an author. I've done it all. And I think it's important that, as we shoot this out into the world live on Facebook and we'll share this on our channel, that young people understand that, writing is the perfect escape from whatever you're dealing with, reading and writing. And I know that, were you a big reader as a child?
I started reading the newspaper to my parents when I was like 4. And
wow.
I don't think I put it in the book, but they skipped me from 2nd to 4th grade because I was such a prolific reader.
2nd to 4th grade? What? How old were you?
I recommend this to anyone because, I was always the youngest kid in my class after that. And, I graduated high school when I was 16. And, no one should do that to a kid, but that's what happened to me.
Oh, that picture of you, you're 16? You guys, I've got to show you this picture of her senior picture. I'm going to hold it up here. Just let me flip back to it. Oh my gosh.
Of course, Kathy, that, we talked about this earlier. And I detailed in my book the fact that I have no longer look like that. So, you know, it's kind of a shock to me to have a completely different face now.
You know, you explained that all to me. And I think all of us are dealing with all different kinds of tragedies, whether they're outward disabilities or inward disabilities. I think it's important to know that if you read this book, you know who you are on the inside. You're still that beautiful girl to me, and I think you will be to all of us. And I think it's important for people to know that this is what, you know, this is life. Things happen to us. We don't always look the same. I have many friends that are, you know, one of my head queens had surgery and her face dropped on one side, and she's very, you know, aware that, you know, and she'll always try to cover it. I go, you're beautiful, Lisa. You don't have to cover your face. I think you're beautiful. And I think who better than a beauty professional to tell people that, yeah, we can pretty ourselves up on the outside and everything and have good grooming and stuff, but it's more important what we are like on the inside. And as soon as everybody in this world understands that it's not a youthful appearance or certain social mores of what beauty is, it's really your inner beauty that we're interested in, and it shows through in your book. So I'm sorry we can't see you, because I would just love that face. So
oh, well, that's very kind of you. Of course, it was rather a heavy duty wake up call that right after I had this surgery, my husband of 11 years walked out on me and said he could not look at me anymore. So those kinds of things will lower your self-esteem.
I wore these earrings I got today, especially for you. It says, trust no man. And I say this facetiously because I have tons of guy friends, but the girl who was showing this, she goes, what do you think of these feminist earrings? And I go, I'm wearing them tonight for our 60s book. You know, it's perfect. You know, that says more about him than you. You know what I'm saying? It says more about him than you, and good for you, because being successful in everything you do, being a book club selection, you know, my big thought about the Pulpwood Queen book club selections is that every single one of them would make a great Netflix series. Yours would too. I mean, Summer of Love, we're all fascinated with it. Have you seen the film Tale of the City with Laura Linney? It was filmed in San Francisco.
I may have.
It's a film that came out in the 70s, and they just did a remake of it where they used all the same actors that they did back in the 1970s. And it has Olympias Dukakis. It's incredible. And I found out after watching it, the main character, Laura Linney, was based after my dear Pulpwood Queen and author friend, Pat Montadon, who lives in Beverly Hills. And she came from a small town in Oklahoma and went out to San Francisco, an innocent. And the story is about a young woman who goes from, I think, Midwest, one of the Midwest states, to California. And she does too. But it fascinates me because you were thrown into a time period there that we didn't all really experience here until decades later. So,
right, one of the chapter names of my book is called "A Product of My Environment."
Right, and I think you're like a time capsule of that time period, and both of your books came out at the same time, but I picked them both because I think it's wonderful to have different perspectives.
And they're very, very
they're
different books.
Very different. Yeah.
There's no similarity whatsoever between our two books.
It's funny because people go, well, you know, I sold the movie rights to my book, which, you know, I was a hair salon owner who had a bookstore in my hair salon. And people go, well, that's been done. Book club, the movie book club came out. And I go, wait a minute. There have been 50 million shows on lawyers and law firms, 50 million shows on hospitals and nurses and doctors. Why can't there be more than one book on a book club? Why can there be more than one story of this time? I mean, it's those collective stories that give us the the full picture. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And people of all ages seem to be really fascinated with this time period.
It is, because I think we all kind of mythologize. We made it into a myth. Back in, I'm an art history major, and people used to fantasize about, the countries afar, and they would create these stories of Indian harems in the Middle East, and they'd have these, and it really wasn't exactly like that. And I think that's what happens with your story and your time period out in California. We all just kind of fantasized about everybody's just, free love, and, it's everybody loves everybody. I'd like to teach the world to sing. You know what I'm saying? And then you read these stories, and your story is very powerful. And I hope everybody reads it. It goes all the way up to 2005. Is that correct? And
correct.
And that's a big expansion of time.
Yes, it is.
And I'm so happy you came out with this book. So what is on the agenda for coming up next?
Oh gosh, well, I'm just pretty busy. I work in 2 art galleries, and I'm a docent at Jack London Historic State Park, and I work in a bookstore there. So I have kind of a dream life for myself. I work in 2 art galleries and a bookstore.
Oh my gosh, the Jack London.
I'm a pretty busy person. What with, I also have to make jewelry, and I have to write. So there's not a lot of free time in the middle there.
That's so cool.
But someone said to me today, "You're good busy," and I think that's true.
Well, life is a choice. And I used to work at a state park. I was a lifeguard and rangerette at Fall River State Park in Fall River, Kansas. So, and that was a dream job for me, because I got to camp all summer and hang out with cool people. And I've got quite a few stories. Being a lifeguard at a lake, state park, and the same summer Jaws came out, it's fresh water. There's no sharks, but you can't believe how people would just freak out all the time. A shark got me. And I go, there's no sharks in freshwater lakes, people. And then they would freak me out, because I thought, what if somebody put one in here? As a kid.
I love working in this particular park. I was on the mounted assistance unit there, patrolling the parks on horseback for many years. So now I'm a foot soldier. I'm working in the bookstore, and I just love it. And I love being in the park.
Oh, that's so cool, because I'm a big Jack London fan. In fact, Jack London, back in the day when he was sailing, he sent a letter out asking if somebody would ride him. He was picking a crew for a big sailing adventure, and he ended up picking a Kansas boy who was from Independence, Kansas, to come and sail with him on this big adventure. And it was Martin Johnson, who married a little girl from Kansas named Osa, and they went on to be some of the world's biggest explorers. And they filmed the first pygmies, the first gorillas. If you haven't read I Married Adventure by Martin and Osa Johnson, but he got his start by doing that. And I bet you they have something in the state park bookstore about it, but it's fascinating to me. And I've always loved his outdoor adventure and his books, and it was a different time. So how fun is that? How long have you worked there?
It's an honor to work there, really.
Wow. I am jealous. That sounds like a dream job. So you're writing, you're making jewelry, you're working in the state park. I'm inspired. Are you guys? I want to go on a road trip. I want to come and visit you. I have a guest room, Kathy. I'll tell you, as soon as it opens up. I haven't been back to California in years. I should hop in my FJ Cruiser and come on out there. Mandy, you and I will have to go out there and check out Sonoma and go to this. How far is it from where you live? Is it very far?
From where I live to where?
To the state park.
10 minutes.
Oh, I live 15 minutes from Tyler State Park, which is a beautiful park here in East Texas. We live in the woods. A lot of people think Texas is, like the John Wayne movies and the Wild West and Fort Worth and, urban cowboy, but I live in the piney woods and I live in a forest in a cabin. So with deer running through and wild hogs and who knows what else. So I'm a nature girl. So I'm inspired. I want to go. I want to come out. It sounds like fun.
Good. Let's do it.
I think it sounds like a plan. When you armchair read from reading these books, I then just want to go to those places. Don't you all? I read books and I go, man, I've never been there. That would be so much fun. So
I'll tell you, this is an exceptionally beautiful place. I have spent a substantial amount of time in Italy and France, and every time I come back, I'm just amazed by how much this valley looks like Tuscany.
Are you kidding me? Because Italy is one of my favorite places to go.
It's very, very beautiful here.
Oh, wow. Well, I hope this week you'll post some of those photos from the state park. If you've got some, we'd love to see it.
But I guess I'll have to take some.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, I'm going to open this up for questions for all of you because I don't know about you, but I have a zillion. Anybody want to pop in and ask her any questions? Okay, Janet.
Janet does.
Well, I want to ask about your spinning wheel because I have an Ashford spinning wheel. I got mine at Bishop's Museum in Honolulu. They're from New Zealand, and I paid $35 for it. And I think now they're almost $500, but still works.
Well, that is in fact the Ashford wheel. I bought it at what used to be, they used to have stores called The Whole Earth.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Like,
of course.
72, I think I bought it in 1972. And I've had it all these years, and I only just recently donated it to the Sonoma Community Center for their fiber arts program.
Nice.
Oh, very cool. We need to do a feature on her in the magazine. We feature our authors who are also artists, and that would be, and then Janet Oakley is she does all kinds of fiber arts too, and she's in Bellingham, Washington. So she leads
our beautiful place.
Oh yeah, it is, and she leads our book club chapter up there. And I've gotten to go out and hang out with Janet. We had a wonderful time. And I have to tell you, Bellingham is gorgeous. Gorgeous.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's a beautiful part of the country. And then we have Ruthie Landis, who's one of our authors from Chicago here tonight. And we have Eileen Sanchez, who runs the blog Pros in the Pandemic, who is an author too. And then, of course, Mandy Haynes, who's my executive director. And she's an author. Oh, Mandy's everything, everything. But come on, girls, tell who you are and if you have a question. Who wants to jump in?
People are shy.
I know. I had an author from Minnesota who came to book club, and this happened, and she had a bag of Hershey Kisses, and she said, the first person who answers a question, asks me a question, gets a kiss. And she started throwing them into the audience. I thought, I am adopting that because everybody had their hand up because nobody wanted to miss a Hershey Kiss. So come on, guys.
Well, I'd like to ask about the winemaking because my son is a winemaker in Walla Walla, Washington. He's the winemaker for the Mark Ryan wines, which is beautiful. They get all their grapes from Red Mountain.
So, like Boo Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ruthie, I am not a winemaker.
Okay.
I've worked in the wine industry for many years.
Okay.
And that was Janet Oakley. So what did you,
Janet.
No, it's okay. What did you do in the wine industry?
Well, my first job where I met the person that would become my husband, Joe Martin, when I went and applied for a job there, I got a job in the tasting room in 1981. And that job included cleaning the bathrooms on the weekends, but it ended up being I rose through the ranks until I became the international sales manager, and I traveled all over the country, did a lot of traveling for the winery.
See, I think the story behind the story is as fascinating as the story that we read. How fun was that? Where was your favorite place to go? Of course, you went to Italy, right?
Yes, but for the winery, no. But you know, I remember doing a tour where we did 11 states in 16 days. It was a blur, you know. So you know, I worked really hard.
Oh my gosh, that's fascinating. Well, as book club members, we have a lot of wine drinkers, so that's that's always fascinating too. Any other questions for all of you?
I have a question.
Yeah, Eileen Sanchez here.
This is more of a writing question. I haven't read your book yet, but it sounds very interesting, and it seems to cover such a long period of time. How do you squeeze all those years into one book?
Well, I was somehow inspired to do a number of interviews for this book. And so I interviewed various people who brought back a lot of memories for me. So the book is peppered with these interviews with people from the wine industry and elsewhere.
That's very cool. So did you work this out in your mind first, or did you actually outline this as a book?
I did not. I'm writing another book, and I'm doing it differently now. But as I said, this book just came pouring out, and I could not stop it. And then, of course, it took a couple of years to edit, and as any writer knows, you edit ad nauseum. And so, you know, I just edited and re-edited it until I got it to where I felt it was publishable.
Wow. Well, I can't. Go ahead, Mandy.
What did it feel like, Nancy, when the book was finished and you had the final round of edits done? What was that? What did you feel like?
I understand you.
Say it again.
How did you feel when the book was completed? And I mean, because you, like you said, it was just pouring out of you for a year. Like you just had to write it. What was that feeling like when it was done?
Well, people always ask me if it was cathartic, and indeed it was. But then no sooner, you know, my husband died, and then I wrote the book, and then we had the fires here.
Yeah.
And it burned the majority of my neighborhood down around me. And so it was very traumatic, which, you know, I had ended the book, so I didn't put that in the book. But so I put the book away for a year and didn't even look at it because I was so traumatized from the fire. And then when I moved into the town of Sonoma from the town of Kenwood, where I had been living, which is also in the Valley of the Moon, I got out my computer and opened up the book and realized that I needed to get it published.
Wow. Well, we felt like we were part of it because we have several authors that live right there, and we're reporting daily. Claire Fullerton out in Malibu, California, it burned all the way around her house. She had to leave. A lot of our author friends had to leave their homes, and they didn't know what was going to happen. And there's still fires burning all over the country, but we're now dealing with hurricanes and floods. You know, it's just because of social media and almost instant news now, we're highly aware of, you know, weather and climate change and all the things that's happening out there. You think you'll stay out there forever, Nancy?
Forever, yes.
Yep, that's true. Well, you've got those dream jobs, man. I'm just like, wow, how fun is that? I'm excited for.
How many horses do you have, Nancy? How many horses do you have now?
I'll tell you, after my husband passed away, I gave my 2 Peruvian Pasos away to friends. Actually, one of them I gave away to a friend who is still riding him, and my other horse, the black horse,
Mm-hmm.
the picture with the mane down to his shoulders,
Yeah.
I gave him to a local equine therapy organization, and he carried sick people around for years until he passed away.
Oh,
Wonderful horses.
wow. We just had an author in Birmingham, Alabama, adopt 2 mistreated horses and brought them back to health. And it's been great therapy for her during this time of COVID, of caring for.
Sure.
They're doing great. We just talked to her the other night. So it's fascinating, your stories. You've got more writing. And what, excuse me, what are the anthologies that you're going to be in so we can watch for them?
Well, yours, of course.
Yay!
And
Yippee!
then there is an organization in California called the California Writers Association.
I know them very well. Yep.
And so I'm going to be in the Redwood Writers Anthology.
Redwood Writers Anthology.
Right.
Who's in charge of that California Writers Association right now? Do you know?
I get their magazine. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
One of my friends, that's one of my Public Queen authors, his wife was involved with that, or Ed Humes was involved with that. He writes for the Los Angeles Times, and I just wondered if she was still on board. But I can check that out on Google. But gosh, thank you so much for. It's early there for you, but it's pitch dark here, and it is. Still hot. Is it hot out there?
It's about in the 70s.
Yeah. We've had really hot summer and the most humid summer I've ever seen in my life. I have all glass windows that face the woods behind me, and they were steamed all summer. Couldn't see out of it.
Wow.
It was that humid, and though I'm glad I'm not down in Houston or New Orleans where it's like drinking water.
Gosh.
Yeah, I kind of miss those San Diego days because it was perfect temperature most of the year round. So, and I've had, I haven't been back to California since, I think the last time they did Book Expo out there, which was years ago. So, anyway, are you planning on any travel once the world opens up?
I've done a lot of traveling in my life. At this point, I am just contented to be safe and healthy.
Yep. We're all learning those lessons. So, well, thank you so much. Is there anything that we didn't cover tonight that you want to share with us that you think your people need to know? Because your book is fascinating, and everybody needs to read it.
There are a lot of stories in that book.
Yep.
So if you want to hear all of them, read the book.
That's right. So get your copy of From the Summer of Love in the Valley of the Moon today by Nancy J. Martin. She's on our blog site. And I don't know if you saw the post today, but Mandy, you want to tell about, we've got a new name for our blog. Go ahead.
I saw that.
Yes, there was some confusion. A lot of people didn't realize that that it was our daily blog of the Pulpwood Queen. So between all of us that were involved with the blog, we decided to change the name, and Mandy did an awesome job with the graphics. So tomorrow you're going to be the first author to post on our new The Pulpwood Queen Presents. So
that's great. And
yeah.
By the way, Breathless Wines is in Healdsburg, where I work in one of the art galleries. So I'm up there a lot.
That's fantastic. I've always wanted to go out there, and their wine is fantastic. And you are right there in that part of the country. How lucky for you.
Yep.
Well, if you go, give us a full report.
Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, we appreciate you. And I'm sorry about the glitch. We'll try to get that figured out. I don't know how we're going to figure that out, but we just thank you so much, Nancy, for joining us, for taking the time to give us the story behind the story. Because everybody, what is it? It's always about the
The
story.
story.
Yay! So see you tomorrow on our brand new The Pulpwood Queen Presents blog site. And thank you so much for being so open.
Thank you. Well, I have to go send my next post out.
Yay! Okay. Well, thanks for being a good sport. Have a wonderful night. And everybody, I'll have this up on our Kathy L. Murphy channel later. So good night, everybody on Facebook land. And thank you for joining us, everybody. I love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Nancy.